you too.
Beautiful morning in New York City. Pouring rain.
Trying to stop his traditional handshake. It's not working.
Nope.
But he did try.
He did try. We had a whole talk about it. It's not.
Coach, it took one sentence for the Giants to tell the world that they still believed in Eli Manning, and the sentence went like this. With the second overall pick, the New York Giants select a running back. This is year 15 for the 37-year-old Eli, off to a slow 1-2 start with only 3 passing touchdowns. Fans wondering if Big Blue made a big mistake. Head coach Pat Shurmur doesn't think so, saying, quote, "I believe in him. Our quarterback needs to know we believe in him." Coach, what do you think of Eli and the Giants offense through 3 games so far?
Well, at my kids' school, they have this grading system where you either exceed expectations, you meet expectations, or they have a really nice way of saying you're not, and they say you're emerging. And I think the offense, when I saw that, I thought, oh, what a really polite way to say they need to work a lot harder.
Yeah.
So I think we're at the point where they're emerging, and there were a lot of positive things from this past weekend. You know, dealing with the injury to the center that they had and having to make that switch, then making the switch with Eric Flowers. I think that shows that they're trying to try new things and push things forward. I like the fact that Odell was involved the way that he was involved, and that should continue to grow. And Saquon Barkley made a more meaningful impact and provided balance to the offense that they've been looking for. And I'm a believer in Eli Manning as well. I think that he's got a lot of good football ahead of him. They've got to continue to figure out a way to slow down the sacks. Another 4-sack game. I think they're 5th in the league in sacks. So it's definitely a step in the right direction. And in fairness to them, it is a new head coach. It is a new offensive coordinator. It is a new system. It is a new approach. And this early part of the season is where a lot of teams are emerging one way or the other.
And if they don't play well against the Saints, because Coach, you know, being trained in New England, and you know with the new coaching, with the new collective bargaining agreement, well, it's not that new, but how they train players, you need 3 or 4 games during the regular season to start developing your team, and then you start to see, man, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What do I have to work with? So I'm an Eli fan also. I believe that they did the right thing by going with Barkley to build, because Eli should be able to play. Given where Drew Brees is health-wise, given what Tom Brady has shown us, Eli is a better athlete than people think, and he's an Iron Man. He's not going to get hurt. I believe they got him for another 2 or 3 years. Now, if he doesn't play accurate, if he doesn't throw the football accurate, then there's no excuse for him. The Saints should be a great test because they are struggling. And if they cannot throw the ball successfully, if they can't block them successfully, it lets them know they're going to struggle. Washington has a better defense than the Saints. Philadelphia, we know what they bring at you from a front 7 standpoint. In Dallas,
we already saw them struggle against Dallas. Yep.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a hard road to be able to get to the playoff in that tough NFC. They should be able to light up the Saints. And if they don't, and if Eli can't light up his hometown team, then it is problem for the Giants going forward.
Well, and that's what we were talking about when we were discussing the Saints' pass defense. The Saints this year have turned every quarterback they've played into on the season into Drew Brees. They're playing against Drew Brees every week on average because of their pass defense. It's why a team, and I understand they're still 2-1, and like the Saints might pull themselves out of this, but last year they looked different because Marshawn Lattimore, as a rookie after week 1 last year, was excellent moving forward. This year, it's a near perfect passer rating when targeting Marshawn Lattimore. The corner opposite him had been benched and then put back in the lineup. They're dealing with an injury now. They have real questions at secondary, which is why for the Giants took advantage of a Texans team that is bad defensively. They did get after the quarterback you had mentioned. Listen, as bad as we think Eric Flowers is, the guy who's behind him must be worse.
Oh, yeah.
Chad Wheeler made J.J. Watt get in the time machine this weekend. They bench Eric Flowers.
I think they're happy with that move. Don't you think they're going to keep Flowers off? Like, this looks like it's a move moving forward. I bet you that if you ask them, they'd be happy with the move to move Flowers off. They still walked away with a win.
They did walk away with a win, but I watched that game since it was the the TV setup I have, we have one just local game on. That was the Giants game. It was the only local game on. So I had my eye on that particularly throughout. Chad Wheeler got it. J.J. Watt has not had, he had 1.5 sacks in the last 3 years. He had 3 sacks on Sunday. So maybe they will stick with it, Jenna. I'm just saying it was trial by fire for Wheeler. But the overarching point is this Giants team has not scored 30 points since 2015. If they're they haven't scored 30 points. That includes their playoff year since 2015. If they're going to do it, yeah, the Saints, it doesn't necessarily mean you win, but the Saints team is a team you should be able to move the ball on.
And I've been disappointed with the Giants offense because they did do a lot of things to address problems that they had. They go out and they get Nate Soldier. They draft the offensive
kid from UTEP.
Yeah, the guard from UTEP, right? So they addressed some of those things. They moved Eric Flowers over to right tackle, which I thought was the right idea. And now they're trying to make another move. They've got an elite receiver. I know a receiver that you love and love probably more than any other receiver in the NFL, who should be explosive, who should be generating big plays. They've got a good tight end, and now they draft a running back, which they say is a once-in-a-generational talent. So you're expecting to see bigger things than what we've seen to this point. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that this is part of understanding who you are and how they have to operate. But we should be getting more than we're getting.
How long is the getting to know who you are, getting to figure out what your identity is? And if it's not that, is it really, are all signs pointing towards their offensive line? Because they seem to have all the other pieces in place. If you believe Eli Manning still has it, is accurate, and ready to go.
I'm a big believer in to whom much is given, much is expected. And when you give the world to Odell Beckham and you pay him like that, then you need to produce like that. And when you draft a guy like Saquon Barkley with the #2 pick in the draft, he needs to produce at a high level. It's
Those
easy,
two guys are
but it's very easy to blame the offensive line. And oftentimes, they're the sacks that they allow, and then there's sacks that the quarterback holds the ball too long, the quarterback moves left or right in the pocket and puts them in a bad position, and we just all want to say, well, it's the offensive line's fault. It's a collective thing, and those guys that have been given a lot need to perform at a higher level than they have to this point. Saquon
and Odell are averaging a combined 210 yards from scrimmage per game. Saquon's at 120, Odell's at 90. And so Odell, I'm certain, and I credit to him for not making an issue of it, he would like to get in the end zone more. He hadn't scored yet this year. I think Odell's played well. I've been very...
And Antonio Brown caught a 2-yard hitch and got in the end zone.
You're absolutely right. You know what? And Antonio...
make people miss.
And Odell has in his history. It's why he scored more touchdowns through the first 40 games of his career than every player in the league, except for, I think, 5 guys receiving. So, like, I'm not worried that Odell's going to be able to get in the end zone. I also have been very critical of Eli. There's only one game this year I thought Eli played really poorly. That was their first game of the year. I thought against Dallas, even though they couldn't score, Eli was under constant duress and took care of the football. And I thought last week against Houston, he played well. But as far as your question, Jenna, about how much time do we give them, it can get late early for the Giants. They start out 1-2, and after New Orleans, Carolina, Philly, Atlanta, Washington, leading into the bye. Like, this is an opportunity to get the offense going and to get back to 500 for the first quarter of the season.
Getting back to 500 is very important. The teams that are good teams, Jenna, to answer your question, they're going to take the first 2 to 4 weeks and be like, okay, this is what we have. We're going to adjust and move forward. But the teams that aren't that good and teams that are going to be around 800, what they'll do is after 4 weeks be like, hey, man, I don't know what we have. Let's take another 4 weeks. And so they'll be at the midway point in the season trying to make those corrections. Hey, at the midway point, we're 3-5. Okay, how can we get 6-2 to close it? So what they'll do is they'll shift their focus. It should be on these first 4 games because training camp is not that physical. Teams change with injuries. The good teams, after 4 weeks, though, they pretty much know what they want to do, and they try to get to that level week after week.
And the good teams, like Chris said, are going to assess where they are. They're going to assess what the problems are. They're going to have a plan in place to fix the problems. And then there's going to be those other teams that say, we do what they do, and the coaching points are, we got to play better. Okay, congratulations. Like telling a hitter, hit the ball. Look, give them some ideas on how to do those things.
Make better points. Have hot takes.
Thanks.
Do something.
Yeah, don't stutter.
Got to take a break. Coming up, are the Patriots in trouble against the Dolphins? That's next on First Six.
Hey, be nice to Jenna.
Nope.
She's emerging.
Don't worry. I give up.
Coach Mangini's emerging on you. Odell Beckham needs to take a smoke route to the house.